George Robinson joins me now, CEO of RavenQuest BioMed. George, welcome back.
Awesome. Good to be back.
George, interesting press release today. You are now Bonify, the company that RavenQuest was assisting recover its license, has successfully regained its status with Health Canada. That's a first in the entire history of the system, if I'm not mistaken.
First of its kind. There's a pathway back from, let's say, the suspension. There's now a pathway back to getting your full license back. And this press release talks about, from the RavenQuest side, talks about that they have the full capacity to sell to anyone, to a patient, to a province. They can sell now outside of the country, inside of the country. It's a full reinstatement of the license. So we now have created a pathway back from suspension to full license.
So is this a possibility that CanTrust is exploring as well?
Well, I mean, I'm sure they're starting to discover the pathway, and it's not easy to go down. And we've heard things that have happened there in the last few days. But now this creates a probability story that if they follow the right process, they can also get their license back. Okay,
and your role as CEO of RavenQuest was to spearhead all of the aspects that the Bonify had to go through, and in that process, you became also the CEO of Bonify.
Correct. Yeah. So they needed some leadership there that they could rely on, I guess, and knew the regulations. So they brought me in as their interim CEO to sort of guide that process for them. And that was a very exciting role. And then with the RavenQuest hat, I was the lead sort of person on our team of about 7 or 8 people that reestablished the culture, the processes, the standard operating procedures to put that facility back on the right path. So it was interesting wearing both hats, but I think it worked out for the best. Is that, Health Canada knew that they had someone at the helm of the company that understood the processes, the challenges that were faced, and how to create a culture that would bring them back to the point where Health Canada would feel comfortable that Bonify could run on its own. And I think RavenQuest and our team of consultants really understood that very well, and what drives our company anyhow, because we run our company the same way that we manage Bonify.
Sure. So what does this make Bonify now? Like, what is its footprint? What is its status? What's it going to become?
Yeah, with my Bonify hat on, I'm really lucky to say that it's a small company, small private company. Now we can edge back into the sales side of the business and start generating revenue. Luckily, we were able to maintain our cultivation license, so we'll be able to fill the vault up completely with product, dried flower. So now what that allows us to do to get instantaneously back into revenue. So we've been working very diligently on taking a look at what those opportunities look like, what the brand of the company will look like. But again, a small private company, now just with our head down, wanting to do the right things for the right reason to get back into revenue, which will start in the near term.
Does RavenQuest BioMed or Bonify have a strategy in place for the edibles market at this point?
RavenQuest does for sure. I mean, we have already talked about our joint venture with Not So Gentle Tea to create the tea product, which I think is one of the most reasonable ways to bring certain demographics into it. We now know that there's a large need for tea, a lot of younger people drinking tea, but we also think that there's an older demographic for it. So that, for us and RavenQuest, is one of the paths. And we've talked about the vaping process. I think what we're doing right now, yesterday, McGill had its inauguration of the now 92 researchers. 6 faculties are now completely embedded into cannabis research. We are going to be actually testing our vape product there to make sure there's no harm. With all the other stuff that's going on about vape products, we're going to take the pathway of actually testing our product to make sure that there's no harm. Take that study to Health Canada along with our product to actually get our vape pen license. So it's a different approach, but we think it's the right one with all the negativity around vaping right now.
You bet. So does that mean you're going to use McGill's medical campus to actually conduct medical analysis of the effects of vaping?
Exactly. So it's very interesting. When you start talking about it, what they have there, they have probably the most unique equipment to actually help us do what we want to do. For example, we can now do what we call imaging, or our magnetic imaging of it, and also what we call drug discovery. So what we're doing is actually taking the cannabis molecule, and we're going to look at it in 3 dimensions to see what's all in there, rather than just the 2-dimensional images that we get typically from HPLCs. So what we're going to do there is understand what's in behind it, and then with that we're going to be able to use in the toxicology side, is now we're going to be able to draw it in through the toxicology side and see in the vaping process or in the compounds is anything not, let's say, converting appropriately through the vape products that could cause harm. And we just think that that's what Canada and what the world's going to need is someone to step forward and say, if you're going to get into the vaping business, prove a no harm strategy that you're doing in long before you can get to efficacy and all that other stuff.
Right. So will the sort of vape testing protocols established at the McGill Cannabis Center for Excellence become an industry standard for testing vaping ahead of product releases?
We don't know, but that's one of the things I'd like to be able to do is start to saying, okay, let's start looking at this differently. Let's not look at strict commercialization, let's look at harm. But if we can do it at McGill first, then maybe it can also become a standard. But there may be other things that other universities or other testing agencies want to do. But I think if we start there, people are going to look at it to say, what else can we do at McGill? Not only RavenQuest, what can other people do there to say, there will be no harm if you choose to use this product.
Right. So that's quite a big deal that McGill has established this Center of Excellence for Cannabis. What is it? What is its overarching purpose?
So I think what they wanted to do, and we've been at it, well, I've been working with McGill for 3.5 years. What we want to do is create an understanding about the research of cannabis that's a positive experience for the school. Obviously, I can't speak for the school, but what I heard very clearly is they want to make sure they wouldn't lose any of the donors or alumni if they ventured into the research side of cannabis.
Right.
But if you we're beyond that now, and we had the reputational board approve the process back about 2.5 years ago. What it really means is this: you can go anywhere from studying cannabis in law, finance, which is really just sort of outliers when you think of cannabis. But now you can be in toxicology, you can be in neurology, you can be in pediatrics, you can be in imaging, you can be in drug discovery, you can be in plant sciences. All those researchers work together on the same campus with the same overarching guidelines that this will be a positive for the school. Where many other places have researchers that are working at different universities, but researcher to researcher is very different than a whole campus and a whole school, backing it from a funding perspective, backing it from a positive experience for the researchers. So this is where I see the benefit of it. And right now, it's the largest institution or even university that's backing up with 6 faculties and 92 researchers. And yesterday we heard about some of the early research that's starting already, which was unbelievable.
Wow, I can't wait to learn more about that. Okay, so then what's driving the engine at RavenQuest now? You guys are still executing, firing on all cylinders. This Bonify business constitutes a revenue event for RavenQuest and is representative of a somewhat typical consulting engagement?
Yeah, I think the revenue side on the Bonify side really just tells the world that not only are we a technology company that grows cannabis, we're also a consulting company that can help people when things get into trouble or they need some help in that area. So maybe if you take a look at it on a broader scheme of outside of Canada, that consulting experience is going to be of extremely high value. Even if you remember at McGill, we actually helped write some of their applications for their research and development licenses. So the consulting arm actually creates a lot of value to the company, and having revenue continue to develop out of the consulting side, kind of helps along the idea of offsetting some of the costs. Remember, a lot of our consultants are still the managers of our business, so they're actually driving revenue at the same time they're managing our business. So it's really quite exciting to maintain that consulting arm.
You bet. All right, that's a great update as per usual, George. We'll leave it there for now and come back to you soon. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.